The AI agent revolution, the end of apps. The AI agent revolution, the end of apps as we know them. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that you don't need most of the apps on your phone anymore. Not because they disappeared, not because your phone stopped working, but because you stopped using them. You open your phone and instead of searching for an app, you simply say, book me a flight to Nairobi next Friday, find a hotel close to the conference, keep the entire trip under $500, put everything on my calendar. And then you wait. Your AI finds the flights. It compares the prices. It checks your calendar. It remembers that you prefer an aisle seat. It finds a hotel that matches your preferences. It makes the reservations. It arranges transportation from the airport. And when everything is finished, it tells you, your trip is ready. You never opened a flight app. You never searched a hotel website. You never compared dozens of tabs. You didn't even have to think about which services were involved. You simply expressed what you wanted, and the machine figured out how to make it happen. That sounds futuristic. But the technology required to make this possible is already beginning to emerge. And if this transition continues, we may be approaching one of the biggest changes in the history of software. Because for the last few decades, we have built software around a very simple idea. Humans use applications. We open an app. We find a button. We enter information. We choose an option. We confirm an action. And the software responds. This model has become so normal that we rarely question it. If we want a taxi, we open an app. If we want food, we open an app. If we want to transfer money, we open an app. If we want to communicate, we open an app. If we want information, we open a browser. Our phones have become incredible collections of software. But there is something strange about this entire system. The computers are extremely powerful. The networks are extremely fast. The services are connected. The data is everywhere. And yet, we are still doing the coordination. We are still the ones moving between applications. We are still the ones remembering passwords. We are still comparing prices. We are still copying information from one service into another. We are still telling one system what another system already knows. The computer can do the work. But the human has traditionally been responsible for telling every piece of software what to do. In other words, we became the interface. And that may be the part that is about to change, because artificial intelligence is introducing something different. For decades, software was mostly deterministic. You gave it structured instructions, it gave you structured results. But modern AI can understand something much closer to human intention. You don't necessarily have to tell it every step. You can give it a goal, and it can figure out the steps. That is the fundamental idea behind an AI agent. A chatbot can tell you how to book a flight. An agent could potentially book the flight for you. A chatbot can explain how to compare hotels. An agent could potentially compare them for you. A chatbot can give you a list of things you need to do. An agent can increasingly move from recommendation to execution. And that difference is enormous, because once AI can reliably understand your intention, plan a sequence of actions, use external tools, make decisions, and verify the results, software changes. The computer is no longer simply waiting for instructions. It becomes an active participant. And suddenly the question changes. Instead of asking, which app should I use? You can ask, can you do this for me? That is a completely different relationship with technology. Think about how we interact with computers today. We have learned the language of software. We know that a shopping website has a search bar. We know that a banking app has a transfer button. We know that a calendar has events. We know that a travel website has filters. We have spent years learning where things are. We have adapted ourselves to the limitations of software. But agents turn that relationship around. Instead of humans learning how software works, software begins learning how humans express what they want. And this creates a very strange possibility. The best interface may eventually be no interface at all. Imagine telling your computer, I have 3 hours free this afternoon. I need to buy groceries, send the invoices from this week, reply to the 5 most important emails, and prepare tomorrow's presentation. Today, that could mean opening multiple applications, a calendar, an email client, a banking system, a document editor, a grocery service, perhaps a project management platform. You become the operating system connecting everything together. In an agentic world, the agent becomes that coordinator. But there is a major problem: trust. Would you allow an AI agent to spend your money? Would you allow it to send an important email? Would you allow it to sign a contract? Would you allow it to make a medical appointment? Would you allow it to access your private documents? Would you allow it to make decisions while you are asleep? The more capable agents become, the more important trust becomes. Agents will need identity. They will need permissions. They will need boundaries. They will need audit trails. They will need to explain what they did. And they will need to know when they are not allowed to act. Because giving an AI the ability to think is one thing, giving it the ability to act in the real world is something completely different. That is why the future of agents isn't only about intelligence, it is also about infrastructure, identity, security, payments, verification, memory, permissions, interoperability, and trust. The companies that solve those problems may become just as important as the companies building the models themselves. And this brings us to the biggest question: what happens to humans? Because the ultimate promise of agents isn't that we will have better apps. It is that we may spend less time interacting with software altogether. Today, a huge amount of our digital lives is spent managing information, checking email, searching, scheduling and comparing, copying, uploading, downloading, filling forms, switching applications, remembering what needs to happen next. These tasks feel small, but collectively they consume enormous amounts of human attention. Agents could begin taking over that coordination, and if they do, the value of human attention could change. Instead of spending your day operating software, you could spend more of your time deciding what actually matters. Instead of telling computers how to perform a task, you tell them what outcome you want. Instead of managing dozens of digital tools, you manage your relationship with an intelligent system that coordinates those tools for you. That doesn't mean humans become irrelevant. It could mean the opposite. The less time we spend managing machines, the more time we can spend making decisions that actually require human judgment, creativity, strategy, relationships, leadership, curiosity, taste, purpose. But there is also a danger. If we delegate too much, we could become dependent on systems we don't fully understand. And if one agent controls access to hundreds of services, a failure could have enormous consequences. So the agent revolution won't simply be about making AI more intelligent. It will be about deciding how much control we are willing to give it. That may be the real technological debate of the next decade. Not, can AI do this? But, should AI be allowed to do this? Because eventually the most important question may not be whether an agent can complete a task, it may be whether we trust it enough to let it. And if we solve that problem, the way we interact with technology could fundamentally change. The smartphone once transformed computing by putting a computer in everyone's pocket. The internet connected information. Apps turned services into software. But agents could connect something different. They could connect intent to action. You say what you want, the system figures out how to make it happen. And that is a fundamentally different model of computing. For decades, we have been learning how to use computers. Now computers are beginning to learn how to work with us. The next generation of software may not ask, which button should I press? It may ask, what are you trying to accomplish? And that difference could change everything. Because the future of software may not be a world with more apps. It may be a world where the apps become increasingly invisible, where services become capabilities, where interfaces become conversations, where software becomes increasingly autonomous, and where the most important technology on your phone isn't the app you open, but the agent that knows what you want. The age of applications gave us software we could use. The age of agents could give us software that can act. And perhaps that is the real revolution, not the end of apps, not the end of software, but the end of our role as the person who has to operate all of it. Because the next generation of computing may be defined by a very simple idea. Don't tell the computer how to do it, tell it what you want, and let the machine figure out the rest.